Welcome back, y'all, to another episode 60 of the Spittin Hoops podcast. We're back. You just saw probably our Eastern Conference predictions that we posted a few days ago. Today, we're recording this on a Sunday. This is probably going to go out on the first day of the NBA regular season. So happy holidays. One of the best holidays of the year. It started the NBA regular season. Anthony, with that right around the corner, how you feeling?
I'm very excited. One of my favorite beginning of the NBA seasons was in 2011, I believe. The Mavs just won the championship, and they were playing the Thunder, who would go on to make it to the finals that year. And KD hit a game-winning three-pointer. Do you remember that?
I actually don't.
He hit like a 30-foot game winner. It was either in the beginning of 2011, 2012, or beginning of 2012, 2013, but I think it was 2011, 2012. KD game winner against the Mavs. Point being, I love the beginning of the NBA. It's so much fun. Excitement happens immediately.
You know, another one that I remember, I think it was the
Uh,
big three, the Heatles, when they played you guys on opening night. The first might have been their first game as a trio ever. And then
uh,
that was a lit game. And I actually think my dad was at that game for business reasons. I'm like, oh,
wow.
which is kind of crazy. But then the
That
next
is.
year, the Heatles also played the Knicks on opening night, and the Knicks blitzed them, if I remember correctly, and beat them by like 20. And I was like, whoa. And then obviously, fake news. The Heat are actually good, and the Knicks weren't. But it is.
Yeah, damn. So yeah, we love it here, man. Let's go.
Yeah. And so today we're gonna get into all the Vegas odds of the Western Conference teams. We're gonna go by divisions. The same, literally just the same thing that we just did in the last podcast. And then you guys can take these clips and roast our takes, pretty much.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah. By the end of the year, half of this stuff's gonna be wrong, probably, but.
Yeah, as it goes. I feel like we've been getting better. Maybe that's
I mean,
not
I'm
true,
sure
but
it's just the nature of the NBA. Like there'll be two guys who are hurt for the whole season, and now those teams are gonna be tanking.
there's always guys we're talking about in 6 months that we hadn't been talking about before.
Exactly.
It's just the way it works. All right. Should we start?
Sir.
The first team of our list of Western Conference teams, as will be a theme, is a very, very good team.
Yeah.
A contender, probably on the lesser side of public opinion contenders. We're looking at the Denver Nuggets. So the Denver Nuggets last year, again, guys, we're going off of total wins over or under. This is not really a prediction on how they'll finish in the playoffs, etc. Although that conversation might flow there as it tends to do so. We're just going to go with the Vegas odds over under. So this last season, 57 wins. They finish tied in wins with OKC, but second overall. This year, it's dropped to 52 and a half wins this regular season. Max, how are we feeling about 52 wins over under?
Okay, I think I'm slamming the under. I cannot talk myself into this team at all. I know they won 57 games last year. They are one of the few teams in the West that legitimately got worse, and I think by a solid margin. I think they're also gonna have to figure out a lot of chemistry things. Jamal Murray hasn't been Jamal Murray in about a year now. And fantasy wise, I think that's great if you have Jokic on your team, for example. If you want to win games, he's now going to have more pressure than ever. I still think he's a top two player in the NBA, right? But I think his supporting cast, losing KCP specifically, is drastic. I mean, KCP shot 40% from the field, from three last year. I know he only scores around 10 points a game every year, but he's also a really high-end perimeter defender, right? For example, your other two guys on the perimeter are Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., who are not plus defenders, either one in their own right. Now you're gonna have Julian Strawther, who actually has been really good in the preseason, and I did really like him coming out of college. But I've talked about this previously. I'm always concerned about their depth, and right now I could argue that their fifth best player or sixth best player is Dario Saric.
Yeah, that's fair. And speaking of depth, so thinking about your points about when Jamal Murray is healthy versus not, went back and looked at the 21 and 22 seasons where the Nuggets, I believe, ended up losing in the semis and then in the first round. They were 47 and 25 and then 48 and 34. And even in the the bubble, different story because fewer games played. But the season they won the chip 2 seasons ago, they won 53 games. So man, this is a tough one. I'm going to actually, my God, I'm very unshaky on, but I'm gonna lean against all of your points, which are totally fair. I think they got worse in many ways and concerned about Jamal Murray's health. I'm a little bit more optimistic on what Russell Westbrook. I think now that he is going to be playing with a guy that is obviously, hear me out, obviously the best player in the league. This is a theory I have about players that sort of seem like they can't really do much to help. And I get that his style doesn't really work a lot of times conducively with offenses that he's been a part of previous seasons. I think if he can get more involved in cutting and being more of an active off-ball guy, I get it's hard, but he's been in the league for a long time. He's been an MVP candidate. Maybe this is a season where he can figure it out. Again, I'm playing heavy devil's advocate, but if anybody can make a player who's not that good look much better, it's Jokic. And so that's one thing. Two, I'm obviously banking on the health of Jamal Murray, but I think they have that consistency with Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon still on the team. Peyton Watson can take another step, Christian Brown as well. So, and I also think Jokic has definitely proven to be the best player in the NBA over the last few seasons. So with all that in mind, I'm actually gonna peek over the 52.5 win mark, even though I fully get where you're coming from.
Okay. Listen, I respect the Russell Westbrook redemption arc that you just painted. Like if he does those things, he will be a good addition. I just personally am skeptical. But I just do want to make a point on the Nuggets 3-point shooting. I think you lose KCP and he's never been like a 3-point sniper, right? But this is a guy who gets up 4 threes a game. And their team in general is not a team that attempts a ton of threes. They've been percentage-wise pretty good, but they've never attempted a ton. And last year, this is one of my issues with them last year, actually, that I'm worried about them again this year. Last year, they were second to last in the league in 3-point attempts a game. They're still shooting 37% from three as a team, but the Lakers shot 38% from three as a team, for example. We don't consider them a super great 3-point shooting team. So that's like a really major concern I have, especially in today's NBA, where right now the West floor spacing is going to be a big deal. And if anything, they just cram their spacing around Jokic. Um, like you were saying, if anyone can make it happen, Jokic can just stand at the 3-point line, and that's their spacing right there, right? So he can make it happen, but I'm very concerned because also like 2 years ago, for example, when Jamal Murray was out and they did win 48 games, for example, they were a top half of the league 3-point shooting team in attempts. Like they were taking a lot of threes. And I think in today's NBA, that's such a big deal. And in terms of helping your ceiling, and that's a big concern of mine, especially losing KCP. Like I think that spacing,
Mm-hmm.
unless Schroeder can come in and play 30 minutes a game, and if he does, if Schroeder can come in and play 30 minutes a game and be good, they're gonna win 55 games, right? Like at some point they can overcome their depth, but I'm pretty worried about that, especially if Jamal Murray does not get back on track.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. I think to your point, I don't know if I take the 3-point concerns too much to heart. Last year, right? They were very low in attempts, and they made to the game 7 of the semifinals and won 57 games in the year that they did attempt fewer threes than the Lakers. They ended up beating them in that series. So I don't know if it always translates to wins based on your team, but it is a concern that might haunt them in the playoffs. Maybe this also haunts them in regular season wins. Maybe it takes them some time to get cohesive. I feel like this is going to be a team we're going to talk about a lot because this feels like a very much which way are you going to go this year kind of season for this franchise. So very excited in general.
And
But
if
yeah,
Christian Brown and Peyton Watson, if they take any steps, and that just adds so much depth, like maybe we're looking back 2 months from now thinking that we're idiots.
right.
So, there is always that potential. But honestly, I was really big on Peyton Watson, but last year, like, he shot 27% from three or something like that. And, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty crippling at times. Especially on a team that has, like, Aaron Gordon, who is a good 3-point shooter and is, like, streaky from three. But, like, you don't want, like, Aaron Gordon shot 29% from three last year, So, like, you
Right.
can't really play Watson and Gordon when you like, because Jokic is a floor spacer, but he also wants to operate in the paint. So it's like then it causes a lot of problems. Anyways, I'm gonna take the under. I actually, honestly, I feel pretty strongly about this. Like I think the West is just that good. Like I don't think the Nuggets are that bad. I just think the West is that good.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that's fair. Well, we'll find out soon enough. All right, one team in, one disagreement in. Next up, another contending team in the West, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who last year finished third in the West. They lost their last game, actually, I believe. I think if they had won that game, they would have been the number one seed.
Mhm.
Crazy how much things could have been different. Maybe not. Maybe they lose in the second round. Anyways, um, they win 56 games last season. And as for this year, they are projected to win 52 and a half games as well. So how are we feeling about the Minnesota Timberwolves and 52 and a half wins?
Yeah, I mean, I slammed their Julius Randle trade, right? But they're gonna be good in the regular season. They're just like too good defensively. They're too locked in. Dante is also just another depth piece. Like I know they lost Kyle Anderson, for example, but it's like, you get Dante DiVincenzo in. That's night and day.
Mm.
Naz is going to get even more minutes. Julius is kind of hurt. If Julius doesn't play that much, it doesn't really matter. I still see them winning 50 plus games. So I'm actually going to hit the over on this. I think this is one of the three best teams in the regular season pretty solidly in the West. I feel more confident about them being a top three team than most other teams because I think they can overcome injuries too. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on what a lot of your points. Anthony Edwards is a type of guy that feels. Did you see that? I saw. Maybe this is Centel. If I got Centelled, I'm sorry, but
WNBA Centelled or NBA Centelled?
NBA Centelled
Oh.
on this one. But Anthony Edwards saying if I win a chip in the next 3 to 4 years, I might play football instead.
I
You
did
know,
see them too.
um, but he seems like the kind of guy that's trying to still prove that he can get it done, and he doesn't like to take games off. To your point, if he can avoid it, I'm with you. And the line is 52 and a half wins. They won 56. So that gives them a 3-loss margin of error, which season to season is relatively, I actually don't know. I'm talking about my ass there, but feels relatively big. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's going to need some cohesion with Randall and Dante. But other than that, I think, yeah, this team is too good to fall that much, even in a more lifted Western Conference. So,
Yeah, and also 78 games played last year, 79 games played the year before,
okay,
72 the year before. He just
very
doesn't get
durable.
hurt. He doesn't get hurt, and he was top seven MVP voting last year. Like he's just gonna keep us in.
Wow. I did not know that he was so durable. Good for him.
Yeah, no, he's a tank. Yeah, they're gonna be locked in. Not worried. This is probably one of the easiest ones. This is one of my another like one of my easiest overs, I think.
Mhm.
And still don't believe in this team really as a playoff team, but
Sure.
I do think if you can win 55 games of the regular season, you're still pretty damn good. So we'll see how they go.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. We are looking now to another title contender, the other top three team in the West. Just getting hit with body blows here early home. Hey, yo. It is the Oklahoma City Thunder, 57 wins last year to the number one seed, losing 6 in the second round to the Mavericks. Their over under this year is 55 and a half. Max, how are we feeling about this team?
Yeah, they're gonna go over, bro. They're gonna go. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think they're gonna be the best regular season team in the West, and I think there's a chance of the best regular season team in the NBA. Like they won 57 games and added iHeart, added Caruso. Their team is a year older, and they were one of the youngest teams already, and they won 57 games. Um, yeah, bar SGA injury, I would be shocked if they were not the first seed in the West. And he's played 70 games each of the last 2 years. Like,
Mm. Yeah, I think that's fair. I actually went. I think that they're going to be better. Um, I don't think that this team is going to have a win number that is equal to how good they are. And I think that the West is really deep. I think that they're going to be in contentious battles. Remember, last year there were 10 teams in the Western Conference that were more than 10 games above 500. So it's not even a knock on how good or bad they can be. But in 2018, 2019, the Warriors were on their third season of the band together, were clearly the best team in the NBA, had just added Boogie, and they won 59 games. So this Thunder team is nowhere as good as that team. I know we're comparing two different situations and like, but with all that in mind, I think they're better. Yeah, I totally think they could win 55 games, and we're like, holy shit, this team is the best team in the NBA. I know that's a bit of a fence
So are you
straddling
taking the
take.
over? Are you taking the over or the under?
No, I'm taking the under.
Okay.
I'm gonna take the under. I think there's too
Dang.
many good teams because there were 10 teams in the West last year that were 10 games over 500 or better. None of those teams have gotten significantly worse, and we're adding Utah and Memphis and San Antonio to the mix. Yeah.
I would argue a few of those. We'll get to them later. I would argue a few of those teams are going to get slammed this year just because of the margins.
Yeah, but above 500 level teams, right? Win more games than lose. Whoa, okay. All right.
I mean,
We'll
I
get
got
to
some.
that
I got
then.
some spicy takes coming up. Like
All right.
I don't know if Houston's going 500. I know everyone is in love with them, but I don't know if they're going 500 just because of how good the West is. Like,
All right.
yeah.
All right. I hear that.
I
Well,
and honestly, sorry. Back on the Thunder,
oh,
I think this team. I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself. This feels like a crash course Thunder Celtics finals. Like, I really think the Thunder are that good. I think the Thunder though are too young and they'll probably get upset. And I said this in the Thunder season preview. I think they'll probably get upset in the playoffs at some point, just experience wise. But I really think they're going to be disgusting. Yeah, sorry. I just want to hammer that point in. Just so when at the first seed, I can clip it and rub it in your face.
all right. Well, fair enough. We're gonna see what happens. They still might be the number one seed, by the way.
Mm.
So even with an under on their win total,
Mhm.
this is a deep West. But I'm with you that their development looks incredible. Shea is already an amazing player. Um, and then again, you add Ihart and Caruso. It's going to be exciting. I'm still going to take the under.
Damn.
Speaking of teams that are under the quality of the Thunder, we're moving on next. Ooh, a little bit of spit in there. A little bit to the Portland Trailblazers. Woof. The Portland Trailblazers finished last in the Western Conference last year at 21-61. This season, their projected over under wins total is a 2-point jump, 22 and a half wins. So, Max, with all that in mind, how are we feeling about these Portland Trailblazers and their 22 and a half?
Like I'm taking the under. Like they got better, but they're just gonna suck again. Like, yeah. Like I don't like I know that's like pretty shitty analysis, but like who they could play anyone in the West and I can't pick them to win the game. And like I know
No,
that's like
yeah,
that's not the only way to look at it, but like this is aggressively the worst team in the West. Last year at least they had teams like the Grizzlies who were scoring less than them on a per game basis and whatnot, but like I don't know. Shaden Sharp is gonna get better. Simon's gonna get better. Klingon's gonna come in. They're gonna figure out those stuff. They're gonna see Scoot Henderson a bit more, and they're gonna win 21 games again. And they'll look better, but they'll win 21 games.
yeah. I don't think your analysis is overly lazy. It's a situation that there's too much talent in the middle of the Western Conference. So yeah, that's a lot of wins against a lot of pretty good teams. So not many of these teams got that much worse, and a lot of these teams got better.
And like Portland, for example, within the conference won 8 games last year. Are they gonna win more than 8 games this year inside a conference? And eight,
That's
like,
crazy.
dude, they went 8-44 in their conference last year. And like that's again with teams like the Spurs who won 22 games last year. The Grizzlies won 27 games last year. Like, are they gonna
Mhm.
win more games in conference than last year? Like, I can't imagine. Yeah, they could get
Yeah,
a lot better and still. So I don't know.
yeah. Okay. Then I think that's fair. We got we're in agreement here for sure. Under. Tough, but under.
But I think they'll look good. Like this is the thing. I think they will look so much better than last year. I actually I kind of feel like Scoot
Sure.
is going to be better. I like Klingon, 20 rebounds in the preseason. That moves me no matter who you are.
Hmm.
But yeah, that anyways.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I think will move on then to the other team that doesn't appear to have any buzz about a play-in adjacent berth in the West, the Utah Jazz. So last year, the Jazz finished fourth to last in the West. They're the 12th seed at 31-51. Laurie is obviously their best player. This season, they're projected 28 and a half wins. So projected to lose some wins in this Western Conference. Max, how are we feeling about the Utah Jazz?
Yeah, they're the second worst team in the West in my eyes, taking the under as well. I just don't think they have an incentive to win. I think Will Hardy's a really good coach. I think they'll win like 25, but Markkinen just got an extension. He's on a weird timeline. I don't think they're good enough to make a playing game, and they'll realize it pretty quick and get into the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. The thing is that they can't trade Markkinen, and I think Markkinen is so good that he's gonna win them a few games. But they can't trade Clarkson. They can't trade a few other guys. They're gonna run out Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George Moore, etc. And I think they'll look pretty good on paper and according to the eye test. And I think they'll win like 24 games and maybe even less. If Markkinen gets hurt, they will pack it in and try to get Cooper Flag, like 100%.
I'm again right there with you. Don't think it's anything against their development of year two of this iteration. Colin Sexton's in there for another year as well. They're kind of a fun team, good league pass team. Uh, John Collins is, interesting enough. Walker Kessler, who knows if he's going to play more? Probably not. To your point, or I know, no, I think he'll be in there to develop. I want to see what Cody Williams is able to do, but their backup point guard is Patty Mills until Isaiah Collier comes back. So I'm not moved. 31 wins last year was a bit of an over
Yeah,
of what they were expected to achieve anyways. So this feels like a regression to the mean and hard
yeah, I really agree. And that's really not to roast them because,
for sure.
they could really be in playoff contention like next year. Like
Mhm.
their young players are good, their development, um, they're gonna see out of Sexton, Collins, etc., even Clarkson, who do they want to keep around as they keep rebuilding? And they're always gonna be pretty good. So I think
Mhm.
this is like their Raptors year. Like this is like their Raptors Scotty Barnes year where they're gonna really make a run for a high draft pick, I think. And they have assets too where they can trade up even further into the draft. So, I think they're in a great spot. They're just gonna be pretty bad regular season wise. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. In terms of over under wins, this is specifically what we're aiming for on these.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Like
so
I
yeah,
have no slander for the way they're going about their business. Like
yeah,
I actually think they're incredibly well coached, managed, etc. So yeah.
yeah. Good luck, Utah. All right, moving away from the bottom feeders of the Western Conference and back into the middle. We're now on Max's team, only 3 seasons removed away from an NBA championship. Well, two, but about to be three. So Max, let's see. The over under odds for the Golden State Warriors are 43 and a half. Last year, they managed to win 46 games this season. They obviously lose Klay Thompson. I'm not sure if anybody else goes out, but in
Chris
comes
Paul.
Chris Paul. They lost as well. Thank you. In comes Kyle Anderson. Um, Ahead takes a step in Trace Jackson Davis as well as Jonathan Kuminga and Pods. In comes Buddy Hield. In comes D'Anthony Melton. So exciting to see. I'm personally relatively high on this team in terms of their ability to compete. Love Steph Curry no matter what age he is in, especially him and Draymond. But yeah, Max, how are we feeling about this over under 43 and a half wins?
Yeah, like I hate to be a homer. I'm totally taking the over. I think they got a lot better actually. I think Clay leaving is actually a good thing in terms of the team itself. Last year was a season from hell in terms of Clay that was a messy situation. Poole just got traded. Draymond's getting suspended, etc. Like, and they still won 46 games. And now you got Buddy Hields coming in, Pods taking a step, Kuminga taking a step, etc. This is also a team that could make an addition at the deadline. Of all the teams in the NBA, this is the most liable to freak out and trade for first for someone. Frankly, with the Steph Curry situation, with Kuminga and Moody being eligible for extensions, etc. I'm taking the over. I think we'll talk about some other teams. I would much rather be some other teams than the Warriors if I was competing for a chip. But like, I don't think the Warriors ceiling is there, but I think they will win 43 games at least.
43 games at least.
Yeah, that's what I said.
43 and a half is the over under, though.
Or 44 games at least.
So you could see 44. Okay, just making sure because you
Well,
watch them land on 43.
Frankly, this team is so deep. I can see them winning a lot more games than that. I can't see them winning a second round series, but like I could see them. I actually think regular season wise, they have a lot of potential to do some damage. Steph Curry gets hurt, just like any other team, if their best player gets hurt, that changes the discussion. But I feel pretty confident about the over here.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't think it'll be by much. I don't think they'll win more games than they won last year at 46, but I also think that they have a very high floor. Again, we're going to assume that nobody gets hurt in these, but Steph Curry is still 90% of who he was at his peak. And Andrew Wiggins can't get worse, right?
I literally,
yeah.
And Draymond can't literally like Draymond didn't play 20 games because of suspension pretty much last year. Like that
Right.
can't, in theory, that can't happen again.
Right. So yeah, you all the bricks that Klay Thompson is going to be building for the Dallas Mavericks, those aren't going to be there anymore. So yeah, I think they went over. So not by much. Yeah,
I will say on the back end of the season last year, and this is off the top of my head, so I could be wrong, but in the last 43 games last year, I think there were 30 and 13. Like this is a team that finished out the season extremely well, and then they kind of just, they got on the play-in, didn't have, they didn't have any more gas when they were in the play-in, so be it. But regular season wise, this was second half of the season, an extremely good regular season team.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways.
Yeah. Well, there we go. There we have it. Anything else on the Warriors before we move on to our next team?
Not really. We'll talk about them during the season, honestly.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, this is a team that's going to be relevant because they have 12 NBA players. They have too many NBA players. They want to make a trade. They got a lot of young guys who can get extensions. Like, we'll be talking about them.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Very, very exciting to see what happens. Will this be a very similar 2020, 2021 type of Warriors season where Steph goes crazy with scoring? Who knows?
I mean, honestly, I think it might be the opposite, actually. I think Steph's scoring might have to go down just because we have too many bodies. Like Pods is gonna want more, is gonna get more shots. Kuminga's a year older. Buddy Hield scores like 14 a game no matter where he's at. So yeah, like I could see Steph scoring down, Steph scoring going down, and the team actually being better because of that. So
yeah, could see that as well. Well, then we'll move from the Warriors to another California team. This one, a lot more mired in cloudiness than I think we feel about the Warriors in the Los Angeles Clippers. So the Clippers won 51 games last year to be the 4 seed, lost in 6 to the Mavericks because Kawhi got hurt at the end of the year after playing the most games that he's played. Unfortunately, Kawhi is suspended from his own body, I suppose, indefinitely to come back. Let's see. Who did they add? They added Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., and Mo Bamba, or was he already on the team? Kai Jones.
Yeah.
So that's who's in, and who's out, of course, is Paul George. So bit of an L there. Max, how are we feeling? Their over under is dropped down 8.5 games to 42.5.
Under, I'm taking the under for sure. They're gonna try really hard. They're gonna do their best. They don't have their first round pick, so they literally just have to try. Every player is playing for an extension, etc. Yeah, this team is not very good, bro. Like on a real. if we look at it, the team without Kawhi Leonard, because I don't know how long Kawhi Leonard is going to be out. He played 70 games last year, got his extension, and you think now he's gonna rush back to injury? He already got extension, man. But James Harden, Norman Powell, Zubats, Terrence Mann, Derrick Jones Jr., Nicholas Batum. Like that is not a good team. Like unreal. Last year they win 50 games. They get 70 games played pretty much out of Harden and Paul George. Kawhi has an all NBA season, um, playing 68 games. And they won 51. Like 51 is a lot, and they had their three all-stars playing the whole time. This year, you're just gonna have James Harden trotting out trying to get triple doubles. Yeah. I think this team has a chance to be a lot worse than what we think they might be.
Mhm. I'm with you, man. I feel bad for the Clippers. I told you this. I was at a Cava a few months ago, and I saw a guy and he had a Clippers hat on. And I went up to him and I was like, "Yo, are you a Clippers fan?" He got so excited. It's like,
That's
"Yeah, are you?" I was like, "No, I just never seen one before." Dapped him up. Um, yeah, man. Feel bad for the Clippers in the grand experiment. I think that trade way back many moons ago in 2019, where Paul George and Kawhi Leonard end up on the Clippers, practically broke the internet. And they made one Western Conference Finals in their time together, and that wasn't even together, which is crazy. Um, yeah, Los Angeles Clippers with James Harden as the best player on this team without Kawhi Leonard coming back for an extended period of time, based on his sort of injury history. Does it seem like he's going to play 40 games? I don't know. So with you, I don't know where they're going to go with this, but I think it's going to be an under as well, man. Womp womp.
yeah. This is the worst situation in the league, in my opinion.
This is a tough situation.
They
Hate to be
don't
in this
own
situation.
they don't own any of their own picks outright till like 2029 or something crazy too. Because they doubled down. Like they traded for James Harden. Like they went out and got more, like traded away more picks than just that big trade, and it's gonna cost them. No.
Yeah, no. Damn, it's such a shame to see what happened with this team.
Yeah.
They could have been good. Um, all right. Now we're gonna move on, and I'm gonna slightly move back because the sun is starting to get in my eyes. Thank you, sun. As we move to another team in a sunny area of California, Los Angeles still, we're gonna stick with the Lakers, who, after finishing 47 and 35 last year, did another one of those late coming onto the season kind of strong moves, only to lose in 5 against the Nuggets. Still got to crack that situation. Their over under win season has dropped a game and a half to 45 and a half wins. Max, how are we feeling about this Lakers number?
Like maybe I don't know. I don't want to be a Warriors homer again, but I'm taking the under, man. Like I don't think this team is very good. They lose Dinwiddie. I know Gabe Vincent's can't be as bad as he was last year, but like they lose Dinwiddie. They get Dalton Connect and Bronny James. Um, this team is one of the few teams in the West that didn't get better, in my opinion. And it's not like they were that good last year. I mean, they were only one win ahead of teams like the Warriors and the Kings. Their whole team's a year older. Yeah, I don't know. I think this team's a little bit more about developing and stalling for a year rather than trying to win the chip this year. So I'm gonna take the under.
Mm, purely for the sake of argument, I'm going to go with the over. Although you did a really good job of talking me out of that. I look at D'Lo. I also don't think he could be quite as bad as he was last year. He also averaged pretty good numbers over the course of the regular season. Um, Austin Reeves, this is going to be a season where we see if he can take a step. To your point, Gabe Vincent can't be as bad as he was last year or absent. Same with Jared Vanderbilt, although he is listed as out. Max Christie, same thing. He's what?
He's gonna be injured for a bit, yeah.
That's a
Vanderbilt.
shame. But Max Christie, we'll see what happens with him. Not really taking any stock into Bronny James, but I am taking some stock into Dalton Connect, who scored 35 points in a preseason game and was clutch and scored like 20 something straight. Rui, I think we kind of know who he is at this point. he's going to be Rui. But you still got LeBron and AD who are feeling energetic after a very successful summer. And I think AD is primed to be a dark horse MVP candidate. So with all that in mind, yeah, I that those will be my arguments for an energized team, perhaps looking to take advantage of some of the chaos in the Western Conference and say, what if we could snag home court for at least the first round for once? Not have to worry about it. Maybe they go with their foot on the gas pedal. But because of that, Max and I both can't be wrong if we pick opposite answers. So one of us is going to be right finally.
I mean, I think you're valid. I think they could totally like this team won't win more than 49 games and they won't win less than 42. Like, they're
Right.
kind of like it's kind of talking about the Warriors again. Similar, like not super high ceiling, not a super low floor. They could go over, could go under. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're a betting man, just stay away. Like honestly.
Yeah, absolutely stay away.
And
Um,
also I will say just ceiling wise, to have a bigger ceiling, they can trade D'Lo, and the team would need to prove like if the team comes out hot, they could potentially use D'Lo and upgrade. If Austin Reeves goes back to, really reminds us of the Austin Reeves that we saw in the playoffs 2 years ago,
mhm.
that could also be a jump. So, there is some sort of upward mobility. This team has more upward mobility in terms of like their actual talent on the roster than like a team like the Warriors, in my opinion. I just don't, sometimes LeBron teams are locked in, sometimes they're not. I can't imagine this team will be super locked in. I know JJ Redick is here, but I think they're kind of. I don't think this team wants to panic. This team has been a team that's been panicking for like 4 years. I think they kind of don't want to panic, on a room. So, that's vibes. That's a vibes call, but that's the Lakers.
Sure. That is the Lakers. And as the sun remains in my eyes, I'm going to move over while we continue to talk about a team in similar theme. Phoenix Suns. Look at that. You guys like that transition?
Mhm.
Um, so Phoenix, NBA Vegas odds have them projected at 46.5 wins, a drop 2 wins down from 49 and 33. Um, Phoenix, actually, mind if I just start with my analysis here?
Yeah,
Um, I am definitely going to hit the over on this. Um, I do think the win totals in the West become more condensed. I really like the pickup of Tyus Jones. I think he's an excellent floor general. That is exactly what this team needs, who's not going to need the ball a lot to sort of score. And then you have Devin Booker, who came off of a magnificent Olympics run along with KD. Bradley Beal, maybe this is the same thing we've been saying, but I don't think he can be worse. I think you put a guy who's averaged 30 points per game a few seasons ago, but still into this system and give him a second year. He'll figure it out. Yusuf Nurkic was better than I thought he'd be last year. Um, Still like Grayson Allen, still like Royce O'Neal, still like Mason Plumlee. And I've heard some things about this guy, Ryan Dunn. Don't
Oh, he's
know
been amazing.
what
He's
it
been
is.
amazing.
So, with all that in mind, I think they just too much talent, and to your point, a lot of slippage. So if the Lakers and the Clippers lose wins, um, yeah, I think they might hit that over. So
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good regular season team, actually. I think they
mhm.
have, like, Nurkic can get them by against certain bigs, and they'll have enough scoring to make up for it. Beal, as much as we roasted him for his performance last year, still his percentages were still fantastic. 52% from the field, 43% from three, and he only played 50 games. So I think he'll play more. Durant, a year older, played 75 games last year. Maybe plays a little bit less, but yeah, I'm with you. I like this team a lot. They got a lot better. I actually think you know, this is a bad analysis, but I think the vibes with Vogel were a little off. Like seeing the way the team talks about having Coach Bud in there rather than Vogel, and this is a team that was good last year. Like this is a team that won 49 games. So yeah, I'm hitting the over. I feel pretty confident about this. Uh, I love Devin Booker, so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually feel very confident about this. I don't think the Suns are built to win. Like they could get first round in the playoffs, but they're gonna win 50 games.
All right. Next up, we are looking at the Sacramento Kings, who had a very interesting offseason. Added maybe the most talented or one of the most talented prospects for free agency out there, or free agency adjacent, in DeMar DeRozan, for a need that they perhaps did not need to have as a team that could have used either more 3-point shooting or more defense. Um, But the Sacramento Kings, so their prediction this year is 46.5, which is zero point 0.5 more wins than they had this past season. Max already has a smirk on his face. We look at the Sacramento Kings depth chart. De'Aaron Fox, Keon Ellis, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Sabonis. Backup point guard is Jordan McLaughlin. But you got Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, two great bench players. Max, how are we feeling about this squad?
Okay, so like I like them. I don't know if they'll be that good in the regular season, but this is a better team than last year, pretty objectively. Keon Ellis year two of him actually being quite good. Um, Still have nightmares about him in the playing games, just hounding Steph and Clay. Keegan Murray, if he takes any step, this team is going to be pretty damn good regular season wise. Um, like mathematically, I feel like I'm supposed to take the under because I feel like I've taken too many over teams, but I did go under on the Lakers, Clippers, Utah, and Portland, so and Denver. So I'm actually gonna take the over. I, kind of a Kings hater at times. How I don't know how big their ceiling is. But I think they'll be pretty good in the regular season, honestly. I think they'll probably win like 48 games, something like that, and they'll go over.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. I'm gonna hit the under here. I think I'm taking wins away from or adding wins to other teams. So like I did with Denver, for example, and the Lakers. I'm gonna go with the under here. I think maybe it might be fatigue or tiredness, but the I'm starting to get questions about where's the cap for this team. And again, that doesn't really impact their overall regular season. But DeMar DeRozan is now 35, even though he's been remarkably consistent as a scorer, unbelievably so. Very, very efficient. Don't really like the lack of depth on this team. So you're one injury away from just being harder to get out there every single night and face a really, really tough Western Conference. So I don't necessarily think they'll be terrible, but I just don't think that they'll win more games than they won last year. So I will go with the under.
Fair enough. I actually kind of like their depth. I will say, I do think they have like 10 guys that are quite good. I think they could survive a wing injury. A Fox injury or a Sabonis injury would be pretty rough, but
Mm-hmm.
they could survive a wing injury of some sort. But, yeah, that's just semantics.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, they do have good depth on the wing. Um, but yeah, a guard or a big would be a tough situation.
Yeah.
Um,
Like a Monk
oh,
injury, you could survive too. But
right, right, exactly. Now that is definitely fair. But I wouldn't bet money on that over under. I'm not going to touch it.
yeah, but that's
Um,
one same as like the Lakers and the Warriors, frankly. If you're
mhm,
betting, just these are low ceiling,
yeah,
high floor teams. Like,
yeah. If you're betting, call the number. Just
yeah, you're betting on the Kings over under total. Like, yeah, maybe.
yeah,
Also, Kings.
absolutely.
Also,
Unless you're a Kings fan, and even still, maybe think about learning what the number is.
yeah, just memorize it. Put it in your phone.
Yeah. On speed dial, on your in your favorites contact. Um, yeah, I guess we're not a pro gambling addictive channel. Shout out. Um,
As we
all right.
say, breaking down Vegas lines.
Yeah, no, legit. It's just a mark. And I might put money on it, but we'll see. Moving on to the most recent Western Conference Finals appearance maker. It is the Dallas Mavericks, who, after finishing with 50 wins and 32 losses last season, of course, bring back Luka, Kyrie, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively. Jaden Hardy comes back as well. Maxi Kleber. Some additions on the lower end, Quentin Grimes. But you also get Najee Marshall, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Klay Thompson in and out. Their overall win number is 50.5. So Vegas expects a slight improvement. And Max, where do you lie with this team?
Oh, this is such a good line. Like I don't know if this team will be that good in the regular season. I still think they'll be a top three playoff team in the West. I think they're pretty
Mhm.
built for the playoffs. I just think they'll be figuring out rotations and not stressing too hard, frankly, during the regular season. Um, I don't think they're up high end ceiling regular season wise is that good either, frankly. Um, God, this is tough. This is tough. I'm gonna take the over. If they got to 50 games last year, they made all these additions at the deadline last year. They made all these additions in the offseason. I think Lively is gonna take a step. Gafford will be just as good. Um, and yeah, like they're now this team is pretty deep. Like now I think this team has got 10, 11 NBA players when I didn't feel that way going into last season, and they still ended up with 50 wins. So yeah, I'm gonna take the
Hmm.
over, I guess. I don't feel strongly about this one. I do not feel strongly about this one. As good as I think they are, like
Hmm.
generally, just breaking down regular season, I don't know how strongly I feel about this.
This is a really tricky one, and to your point, it could totally go either way. Looking at all these teams, oof, this is a tricky one. Yeah, I call this number because I am not putting money on it. I'm gonna go with the under just because got to see how Clay is going to come into the mix here. Um, he's a year older. They really need good wing defense. They really good need good defense everywhere besides the center position. So yeah, I could see it taking a bit of time for them to figure it out. But to your point, they just made it to the finals in pretty impressive fashion against who we presume to be the number one team in the West this coming year, and then also the Minnesota Timberwolves. So yeah, this is going to be a really good team. But are they guaranteed to win that many games? I think it could be under. So we'll go with that.
Fair enough.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be within 4 games. So they'll win 48 to 52 games, like the Mavericks have.
Yeah, that exactly. So it's so tough. They're gonna win 49, 50, or 51 games this year. Like
And they'll
just
be really good in the playoffs. They'll still be
yeah.
really
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Um, so yes, all right. And that seems to be the Dallas Mavericks.
We're back. Location change. You guys don't know about that, but we might be dressed in different clothes and whatnot. We kind of cut this up according to 2 different points the same day. We're gonna pick back up right where we left off. Anthony, you want to take us away?
Yes, sir. Let's do it. Next up after the Dallas Mavericks in the Southwest Division, we have the Houston Rockets. Vegas has the Houston Rockets finishing with an over under of where are you, Houston? 42 and a half. So it has Houston taking a step forward in terms of win totals. Last year they finished 41 and 41. Max, how are we feeling about this 42 and a half?
Um, so I think this is a good team. Don't take this away. Like, don't get mad at me because I'm about to roast them a little bit in terms of their win losses for this regular season. But I think this team is in a really good spot. But I'm gonna take the under. I don't think this is a over 500 team. I know they were last year and they did deal with injuries and whatnot. And in theory, progression should take them to being a little bit better. But I do think they have minutes, rotations, development to kind of figure out. Jalen Green is expiring at the end of this year. Şengün is not going to get a max contract. They're going to be trying like crazy. But at the same time, they're going to be trying to fit in guys like Steven Adams, Cam Whitmore, Amen Thompson. Obviously Van Fleet is going to play 40 minutes a game. Dylan Brooks, Reed Shepard, etc. They're really good. Like this is a really good team. They will be really good sooner rather than later. I just don't think they have the regular season performers at this point. They don't have any regular season stompers, at this point. Like they don't have a Paolo who's scoring 25 a game for 80 games. And Şengün could take that step. And I'll eat my words. Like a lot of those like guys can take a step between Green, Thompson, Şengün, etc. I just like I don't know. I feel pretty skeptical that an aggressive enough step will happen for them to overcome the amount of development that's happened on other Western Conference teams. So that's where
Mhm.
I'm at with them. I don't think they'll be a playoff team. I'm taking the under.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Looking at the team now, Van Vliet, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith Jr., Alper, and Sengun is your starting lineup to start the season. Aaron Holiday, Reed Shepard, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Steven Adams, and Cam Whitmore coming in at your bottom six. So very, very deep team with a lot of playable guys. I mean, that's leaving out Jay Sean Tate, Jeff Green, and Jock Landale as well.
We also
So
like, yeah, who we also like.
yeah, exactly right. So a lot of good players. Yeah, I think I land at the same place for maybe slightly different reasons. Again, like we've said many times so far, today the West is just so deep. It's hard to get a lot of wins. I think that they'll be better and I think they'll look better, but that might mean 42 wins and 40 losses. They might end up with the same win-loss total as last year, which, I mean, no, that will not have them good enough for a playing spot based on how good this conference is. But I think that with in mind the potential of the 2025 draft, which people are saying is going to be very good. I don't know if they can keep their upcoming pick. Am I right or wrong on that?
They do
Um,
keep their upcoming pick.
if they okay, so if they keep that and they're like, you know what, this isn't working, and we're right when you're in this kind of position as one of these young trying to figure out playoff teams or play-in teams, you want to see, okay, should we try to go for it this season, get tested, kind of like the Orlando Magic did last year, and like throw our feet into the fire? Or should we, maybe sit the last 10 games and then we can get a Cooper Flag type of player who would fit perfectly on this team? So with all those in mind, I could see them going underneath, even though I think they'll be very competitive, very fun to watch.
Yeah, I think this is actually a really good league pass team,
Yes.
contrary to previous years of the Rockets sometimes. But also, from what I understand, they have a really weird thing with their picks. This is one of the last picks that they owed to the Thunder for the Russell Westbrook trade, but they made a deal a few years back where it's technically protected 1 through 10, and then if not, the Thunder have the rights to swap it. So that's another
Okay.
incentive for them to not be that good. And on the other
Mm,
hand, you could also say they already have so many young guys. They probably don't really care about this pick, which is fair, but assets are assets. So we'll see. I think unless this team is really good off the rip,
mhm.
they have an incentive to be a development based team, not a playoff running team. We'll see. I I could see them being really good. I could see this team overperforming and then getting first rounded or something, but jumps have to happen. Jumps have to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is one I don't actually feel super comfortable betting on this line.
Me neither. Me neither.
Because could they hit 43, 44 wins? Sure. Absolutely. It's
Totally.
possible. Um, but yeah, all right. So there we go. Beautiful. Next up, we have the Memphis Grizzlies, who are looking to bounce back to their 2 years ago, 3 years ago form. Um, finally healthy with the likes of John Morant, two former Defensive Player of the Year in Marcus Smart and Jaren Jackson Jr. Desmond Bane is back. Zach Edey is manning the center position with a relatively deep second unit in Scottie Pippen Jr., Luke Kennard, Vince Williams Jr., who's still out, Santi Aldama, and Brandon Clark. So, Max, how are we feeling about the over-under of 45.5? Last season, they finished with a record that was so bad that it's not even worth bringing up because they didn't have any players. So, not good to reference.
Last year, I mean, they were basically had 13 players hurt the whole season, just getting by
Yes.
2 ways and 10 days and still won 27 games. I'm slamming the over. This is one of my favorite bets of the whole league. I think this team will win 50 games pretty comfortably. I think this is one of the top 3 teams in the West. Whether you think
Wow.
how good, however you think they will be in the playoffs, like that's up to you. But the last 2 times they've been mildly healthy for a season, they've won 51 and 56 and 51 games respectively. This is a team that has always been really good in the regular season. It will be built for the regular season, especially in the West with so many bigs. I've bashed Zach Edey on this podcast previously, and then I will eat my words already. He's just such a big body that's going to fit what they're doing, plus Brandon Clark, plus JJJ, right? So defensively, you've got your bigs there. And then offensively, you've got GG Jackson, who's the only 18-year-old since LeBron James to score double digits as a rookie. And then you've got obviously Desmond Bane, John Morant, Luke Kennard, who's back. You've got a lot of scoring on this team. My only worry is spacing. They've never really. The thing is, their spacing is usually fine because JJJ can shoot enough, and Ja can jump over whoever's guarding the center. So this is one of my favorite bets. I'm slamming the over. I really like this team. I think they're going to surprise a ton of people when they shouldn't. 2 years ago, 51 wins. Year before that, 56. And they're substantially better than what they were 2 years ago. I think Vince Williams and GG Jackson, like you can forget about those guys, but their weakest spot is the wing spot. And there's a chance that Marcus Smart's not starting on this team because those wing players are so good, in my opinion. So I'm really all in on this team in the regular season. I think they're going to be fantastic. Slamming this over. I think they beat it by 5 games, at least.
Wow. That's high praise. I think this might be our biggest disagreement. I'm going to go the other way. And it's not going to actually have to do with anything that you brought up, all fair points. One comment that you made is the reason why I will not go with this over, which is John Morant can jump over the center. That is awesome. That is going to lead to injury. And obviously that's not what you're saying, that, that's how he'll get hurt. For me, it's just, this has been a team with injury concerns for a long time. And so with the combination of that being a possibility, plus ramping guys back into it, getting to know each other. Yes, Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson have been together for quite some time at this point, and Brandon Clark, and Santi Aldama, to be honest. But I think that they have some work to do. 50 wins would be extremely impressive. So I think this is probably our biggest disagreement. I just think the standard deviation of what could happen is so great that I'm more comfortable leaning on the under, and maybe they heat up by the end of the season and then they do look like a 50-win type of team. But yeah, so
I hear you, and I think your concerns are fair, right? Like Ja has never played more than 67 games in an NBA season. That was his rookie year. Last
wow.
year played 10 games. Year before that 60. Year before that 60. Year before that 60. Pretty much. And so he's basically missing a good amount of time each year. I just think he's that good. If he plays 60 games, I think they'll be a top 3 seed. I think, yeah, I'm really a believer in this team. Yeah, I actually feel very confident. I've watched a little bit too much of the Grizzlies over the last 3 years, and I'll eat my words if they don't pan out, but I think they're good. I think they're going to be. I feel very confident. I think they're going to be very good. And it's all going to depend on health. So if your concern is health and you have them as the under for that, then I can't really flame that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's no reason besides that. I mean, I think the talent speaks for itself. Maybe the lack of shooting would be the one concern with John Morant, Marcus Smart. If he does play heavy minutes, maybe they find a different rotation for him, with Jaren Jackson Jr. and of course Zach Edey. So you don't really have more than one true floor spacer, I think, in Desmond Bane.
I mean,
At least in the
you
starting
have
lineup.
Luke Kennard. You have Luke Kennard,
Yes.
Bane, and Vince Williams. Because Vince Williams also shot 38% from three last year, a 4-3
Mm,
game, which is really good. And Gigi
that is
Jackson,
pretty good.
rookie, shot 6 threes a game and made
Oh,
36%. And he
okay.
was 18. Like he was 18. So
Okay.
that's why I feel those wing spots panning out are really the difference maker, in my opinion. If Marcus Smart is starting, if Marcus Smart's playing 34 minutes for this team for this whole regular season,
Yeah,
that's going to affect my confidence in this team for sure.
sure. Yeah. So, all right. Well, there you have it. One of our bigger disagreements in
It's
terms of over
probably
under
going to
wins.
be our biggest disagreement, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's sort of for like
different
different
reasons.
angles, so it's like hard to say that we're truly in conflict here.
Yeah.
But we'll keep plugging along.
I would bet on this. If I was a betting man, if you got the FanDuel, you can like modify the number of wins. I'd bet on it too. Like I think the odds could probably get if they're at 44 wins for the over under. If they're healthy, they will beat that.
mm,
Like in my opinion. So, bet on health or not, I guess is up to you. So, yeah.
I think that's fair. And so, just maybe we'll put the number to call at the bottom of the screen at some point during this, if it comes back and we see how awful one of us were on this pick, because one of us will be very far off on this pick.
Or maybe we'll pause, maybe we'll stop uploading because one of us will have to go get some help.
Oh
You won't
man.
hear from us for a few.
Spitting mortgages. All right. From Memphis, continuing down south of Mississippi, New Orleans. Fun fact about the ESPN New Orleans depth chart: if you go to their website, the shooting guard row is not listed. So,
Yeah. It's really
New
glitchy.
Orleans, ridiculously, finished with 47 wins last year, I believe.
49.
49. Okay, so they avoid the play-in. And this is always a very, very interesting team. One of the sort of weird what is going on things here. But they end up trading for DeJounte Murray over the offseason as their starting point guard, with CJ probably joining him in the backcourt. Brandon Ingram as the small forward. Have to see what happens with him. Zion Williamson at the power forward, although there might be questions about center. And then at center, Herb Jones, one of our favorite wing lockdown defenders in the league. So a very interesting team with a lot of work to do on it, of course. And we're missing Jose Alvarado, Trey Murphy to speak of. With the over-under of 46 and a half, Max, what are you thinking about this team?
I have the under, actually. I have the under. I really like every player. Like I just hate the fit. I hate the way this team is built. I don't Daniel Tice is going to be starting at center for them. Like Herb Jones, I think is an amazing player. He's not going to be able to play center unless like he can strap Nikola Jokic and he goes to another level. I literally think Herb Jones might be the best defensive player in the league, but that slot is so bad. Like that is such a problem, especially in the West, where I'm gonna go under it, combining that with the injury concerns with Zion, with the chemistry concerns of BI getting traded at any moment potentially. And then you add DeJounte, and I really like DeJounte. There's a video on our channel of us breaking DeJounte down, right? And it's just another cook in the kitchen, bro. It's just another guy who wants to shoot the ball 16 times a game when there's already not enough shots to go to Trey Murphy, who shoots 8 threes a game and shoots 38% from three, but he takes 10 shots a game. Like he needs more shots. Like not only does he need more shots, I would argue Herb Jones needs more shots, who shot 42% from three last year off 4 threes a game, like as good as he is defensively. And then you have younger guys across the team, like who's the rookie? Jordan Hawkins, for example. Like he should be getting more shots. And instead, you brought in a guy who's going to take shots. I don't know. If this team trades Brandon Ingram for Jared Allen, this is a 15-win team. Yeah, like in my opinion. But until then, I can't take the over, especially with the injury concerns, with the fit concerns. Like, yeah, that's where I'm at. And I really like every single one of these players, except for CJ McCollum.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I also like CJ McCollum. Not in the playoffs, but I do like CJ McCollum.
Like if he's your fifth best player, like he is on this team, your team should be pretty amazing. But
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're a deep team. I think they'll be fun on a lot of nights. It feels like this team sometimes goes as far as Zion goes. So when he's on one, he can be super, super impactful. And there's been plenty of seasons where, over the last 3-4 seasons, where the Pelicans have been right at the number 2 or 3 seed in December. And we're kind of wondering, all right, is this going to sustain? And then either some sort of injury happens or there's just questions at different positions, and the production isn't where it should be. So I'm with you. I'm also going to take the under here, not really at flack of their depth, which according to their team, they don't even have a shooting guard position, although center is the one they should have omitted. Yeah, so I'll take the under. I mean, they could still be a play-in team for sure. They could be a bottom end playoff team. Could they be a 5 or 6 seed? I think that's certainly possible, but that might not be enough for wins to cover 46.5 this year. So I will also take the under, Max.
Yeah, I will say there's a few aspects here that are at play. If Zion plays 70 games like he did last year, they'll probably win more than 46 games. So there's that. I just cannot bet on Zion to play 70 games when as a rookie, he played 24. Second season, he played 60. He missed a whole season. Then he played 29 games. Last season was the first time he was healthy. And even then, he's playing at like 50% to like not get hurt. So that's my concern there. I will say they have such a stockpile of picks. This is totally a team that can go out and get someone. I would anticipate they will. But who will it be? And who's going out? And how does that affect the chemistry? Like there's just too many questions for me to go over, pretty much. And I think this team could be really good though. Like if they trade again, if you do Brandon Ingram for Jared Allen straight up, and then you get 80 games of Zion, like they're probably a top 3 seed. Like they're not that far off from being extremely good compared to some of the other teams that I have in this 44 to 46 win range.
And even if not the Cavs, because I'm thinking about the Cavs and do I want Brandon Ingram there? For
That was just an
reasons.
example. Yeah.
Right. But I think I might have heard something on a podcast that was similar to this. But, a guy like Walker Kessler, where you can get rid of Brandon Ingram and you can send out some picks and maybe he's a guy that can set up alongside Laurie over there. But to
Probably
your
don't even have
point,
to, probably don't even have to trade Ingram, honestly, if you just want to throw picks.
so right, so their centers abound. You just got to go get one, guys. You need a big body. This is the Western Conference we're talking about. This is the NBA we're talking about. You need a center. So yeah,
Like
that's
Gobert is gonna have 25 rebounds a game, like anytime they play. And I
sure.
don't even love
Yeah.
Gobert, you know?
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I don't know. I will say this team is like, again, I can't stress this enough. It's really not that far off. I really do like this team. And I like their depth. I like their
Yeah.
players. Trey and Zion are literally two of my favorite players to watch in the NBA. So like I'll still be watching them. So yeah. Anyways, I just need to devil's
You
advocate that since we were bashing them a little bit.
you do love Trey.
Love watching him play. Dude,
Yeah.
literally every shot he takes is a three. And then if not, it's a dunk. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. I love it.
Didn't you drafted him on your smoothest players list,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well deserved. So another great team to watch for League Pass nights.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. I think we've gone through 29 teams in the association. We
Yes.
have a
Sir.
last but certainly not least team here, a very exciting team. The San Antonio Spurs, who last season finished with not a great record. I think one of the worst records in the NBA, 20 something wins, low 20 wins. 2024 record. They finished with 22 wins, 60 losses. No bueno. Probably a big reason as to why Wemby did not get deployed. With the additions of the growth of some of their young guys in Wemby, of course, but Sohan, Vassell, Trey Jones, Keldon Johnson, all guys that could take a step. Stephon Castle they bring in from the draft, and then you get a couple veterans in Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul, who has not had a lob threat like this since Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
And is probably better than Blake Griffin in terms of lob threat ability, and passing does not go away as a skill set with age. So
Capella, to be fair. But yeah.
Capella, yeah, okay, Capella could be another one as well. But a 7-5 guy, that this is going to be impressive. 35 and a half wins. So Vegas has them jumping up 12 wins potentially. So Max, how are we looking at in a stacked Western Conference? 35 and a half games, that's quite a jump. What are we thinking?
Oh, it's quite a jump, and I believe in Wemby. I think he's amazing. I'm gonna have to take the under, but they could surprise me. Like this team doesn't really have like a solid ceiling in my eyes. I'm a big believer in Stephon Castle. Um, I'm a big believer in Devin Vassell, who scored 20 points per game last year, pretty under the radar. Um, I don't know. Like I can't like I'm gonna have to take the under, but like I don't feel great about it. I really like their additions. I really like Castle, Paul, etc. But I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think there's enough talent in this Western Conference to do that. I will say they don't have an incentive to tank like other teams. They have 4 first-round picks that they own in the next draft. That's the Chicago top 10 protected pick, Hornets
Wow.
top lottery protected pick. Both of those could
Wow.
easily convey in theory. They like I think one of the two at best will convey, but then they also have Atlanta's unprotected first-round pick, which is yeah, that is fire. And then they have their own pick too. They also have the rights to swap with Atlanta's pick in the year after. So this team has a lot of assets.
Oh,
So they don't have an incentive to tank. Like they don't really need to go tank for Cooper Flag because they could trade for first and move up if they really need to for a guy that they want, even if that isn't Cooper Flag. So, anyways, yeah, I'm taking the under, but I think they're going to be really good. And Wemby, I think, is that good where he might just drag them.
well, first off, had not realized the draft capital that they have for this upcoming season and do not need to do anything with their picks. Unbelievable. Um, I'm gonna go with the over on this one, actually. I was thoroughly surprised that I thought they were going to be a playing team, honestly, last year. That did not come out to pass. I think some of the rotations that Pop was throwing out there didn't really make sense early on. I know a lot of Spurs Twitter was unhappy about a lack of just interesting positions for guys.
Yeah.
Jeremy Sohan is a guy that was listed as point guard last year, and thinking about if he's able to take any step forward, Then you have some defensive versatility at your backcourt position, but this team feels very well rounded. There's not a lot of overtly weak spots with Chris Paul and Trey Jones as your point guards, Vassell and Castle as your as your wing guys with Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes. You have Zach Collins who can be a guy. So to your point, if they want to use a couple picks and go up and trade for a more established player, they can totally do that. And I think with Wemby, he's going to be something special. He looked amazing for France. He's added a lot of weight, and he's just one of those guys that's a generational talent. So I could totally see them taking this jump and being in that playing area for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. My concern with them is I think their 3-point shooting is like pretty weak, barring some jumps. But yeah, I mean, like somehow I think Wemby's going to be a top 10 player in the NBA. Easily he'll show it next year, and then I'm still
Mhm.
taking it under. So maybe I'm being an idiot here. So I totally hear you, and I think you're totally valid. I would be, yeah, I would not be surprised if they were a playing team, or honestly, if they're a 6 seed winning 46 games, am I going to be shocked? Like, probably not.
So this is a team that seems to have a pretty wide deviation of potential wins losses.
Yeah.
Hmm. All
Well, with
right.
that, okay. Do you have
Yeah.
any other like anything else like with the season? Because we just went through like last podcast, we went through the East. This podcast, we went through the West. Is there any storylines that you're keeping track of? Are there any players you really like? I'm kind of
Mm.
putting you on the spot here, but
Oh, that's a good question. Do you have any
off
that
the
you're
top of
thinking
my
of?
head, like on this point that we're talking about the Spurs, like I think Atlanta, you know, we both took their under, but I really like. I think they could figure something out. Like with Jalen and Trey, and their over under was like 40 something already, so it was pretty high. But like I'm really curious to see what happens there because that's a team. I'm really curious in these teams that could go either direction, whether that's like Utah,
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta, even like Milwaukee, for example, where it's like a horrible season and stuff could change drastically out there. I'm really interested in tracking those because the league is going to be so competitive. If there's going to be multiple teams, like in the West, for example, you know one of the Lakers, Clippers, Warriors, and Sacramento. One of them is going to get off to a 4-12 start. Like that's I'm exaggerating, but like one of them is going
Not
to
good
be
though.
one of them is going to be 3 or 4 games under 500 early on, and just mathematically. And I'm really curious to see who it is. There's like too many good teams in the West, frankly. So yeah, that's kind of the storylines I'm tracking. The Western Conference playoff picture is really so curious to me because if we go down the list, the Thunder, the Nuggets, the T-Wolves, the Mavericks, in my opinion, are all locks. I think the Suns are a lock, and I think the Grizzlies are a lock. So that's my top 6 teams
Sure.
already in my eyes. And then we still have to talk about the Pelicans, Lakers, Kings, Warriors, Rockets. That's another 5 teams. So one of those teams is missing the playoffs I just listed. So I'm really curious to see what it is. And that's not even to mention the Rock, like that's not even mention the Spurs and things like that. So
Yeah. I mean, the competitiveness is going to be unbelievable. Super excited for that. I'm looking for where I can find. This isn't what I was hoping for, but I'll use ESPN's list. There's a more comprehensive list that I prefer. I think it's on NBA basketball reference. But according to last season, again, reference would show up to like 50 players, I believe, who qualified. But for qualified players, there were 38 players who averaged 20 points per game last season. Um, let's go 2 seasons ago. There were 43. If we go back to 2014, 2015, 10 seasons ago, it was, wow, Kevin Martin. They don't have the rank, but it looks like there were maybe 20 players, if that.
yeah, it's doubled.
Uh,
It's like doubled over the last 10 years.
it's doubled incredibly. And so with that, I'm very curious. I think that's one reason why guys like LeBron and KD have been able to keep their scoring prowess going. Somebody that I really love as a player and just watching as a hooper is DeMar DeRozan. And I think it's been so cool that after he got traded from Toronto, kind of felt like where was he going to go? And he had a quiet very impressive stint in San Antonio before coming to Chicago to a bigger market. I'm curious to see just how many more years is he going to be able to average more than 22 a game.
Mm.
So kind of a random question, but it's not the biggest thing I'm looking at. But just very curious to see how he's going to fit in Sacramento, how that team's going to look in general, and how him individually, the way he shoots the ball, and how that's going to age. So
Yeah,
that's one thing I'm looking at.
I really like that actually. I am very curious as well. He had a crazy good stint in Chicago. Extremely efficient, basically 50% from the floor throughout his stint in Chicago. 25 points per game over 3 seasons, like in total. That's a
Mhm.
pretty like it's a steep upgrade. Like I might be underrating them because like it's just another gadget that they're gonna have to be really good. Actually, I took their over. Never mind. So maybe I'm not underrating them. But I'm very curious as well. And I don't know where he is all time scoring, but he's
Oh,
already at
he's
23,000 points, right?
wow.
So let's say he plays 37, 2,000 points a season maximum. So like
Hmm.
5,000 points. He could get to 30,000. If he gets to 30,000, he's a Hall of Famer 100%.
He could
So
get to 30,000 points.
it's accessible for him. If he plays till he's
That's
39,
incredible.
if he plays till he's 39, he's going to get to 30,000 points. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Wow.
and
That
all
would be.
time, that would put him, if he gets to 30,000, all time, that would put him top 10. Like, that is not an inaccessible number for him. The issue is I think, if he, like, the time it would take DeRozan to get to 30,000, for example, you have other guys like Harden who could potentially
Hmm.
beat him there. But yeah, anyways, like or Steph is also another mild example there, but DeRozan is not as old as those other guys. DeRozan is 35, right, this season. Curry's 36 this season. So yeah. Anyways,
It's achievable.
DeRozan's gonna end up extremely high on the all-time scoring list when he retires, and
Yeah. No, yeah, that's actually crazy. I did not know that. So yeah, that's definitely something to be keeping an eye out for. Um,
that's a good one too. I'm
what else you
something that
got?
I am tracking a little bit is one of these bad teams going to overperform in the East potentially.
Hmm. Who's it
Detroit,
going to be?
between Detroit, the Hornets, and even like the Hawks. And I'm curious to see who it is because all those teams have talent.
Yeah.
Detroit, I've heard some other people be a little bit higher than I am on Detroit. I can't really get behind them just because of lack of spacing and shooting, and I don't think they're that good. But like Charlotte, for example, if you get 70 games out of LaMelo, you should probably be a pretty good playing team. Um, how would they win a play-in game and would they be competitive in a playoff series? I don't think so. But
Hmm.
yeah, like I'm curious to see that because I don't know. At some point, these teams have been so bad for so long. Like if you're Charlotte, like you're gonna keep drafting good players, and like it's gonna be easy to talk yourself into Brandon Miller being the face of the franchise if LaMelo can't stay healthy for another season. So I don't know.
No, I absolutely hear that. Dude, yeah, it's gonna be cool to see which of these because one team will be. I thought that was gonna happen last year. It didn't really happen last year where an
Orlando,
Eastern Conference team, yeah, Atlanta, but
Orlando.
Atlanta felt like they were slated to be there. Curious
Oh,
to know
you
who's
mean
gonna crash the party this year.
oh,
What's
you
up?
mean a team that went worse or a team that did better than you
I
expected?
feel like there was no team that really in the lower part of the Eastern Conference impressed me with a step. And
Orlando.
I was already high on Orlando though,
Yeah, that's true. We were
but
both pretty
we were
very.
both very high. Yeah, but I like a bottom, an obvious bottom feeder team that was nowhere slated. But yes, Orlando was a huge step. That's a team for sure. Um, one other guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing this year is can Alperen Sengun take a step? I was
Mm,
super, super high on him at the beginning of last year and just most throughout the season. And then he went out and Jalen Green took the reins, and all of a sudden the Rockets went like 12-3 and made a push for a play-in team. And then he came back and they still finished out the season. They had a rough spell and then they finished on strong. And is he going to be able to take a next step? He's been compared in some ways to a baby Jokic,
yeah, I would
and
too. I would
could that
totally make
happen?
that comparison.
Yeah. So very excited to see what his season's going to look like in year 4, I believe.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see like if they can combine because they really played a little like they were way more athletic with like almost Şengün off the court. Like it was almost like Green and Thompson. Amen, like literally rode that to second team All NBA berth, if I or All Rookie berth, right?
Mhm.
And like they're just out athleticismed every other team pretty much
Mhm.
for like a 2 week stretch, right? And the thing is, Şengün plays totally opposite, where Şengün wants to play half court basketball, wants to space the floor, wants to take his time, find the right shot, and he's amazing. He's the best player on their team. But if they can kind of synthesize both of those ideas, they could be nasty. And Şengün could also take a step. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great call. I think they're one of these teams like um like New Orleans and San Antonio in the West who have higher ceilings than other teams that I think will probably do better than them. But one of those teams between San Antonio, New Orleans, and Houston, I think will shock a lot of people, honestly.
Dude. And that's why we love this game. We have no
Yes.
idea who's gonna win.
A little recap. I'm just gonna run through our
Yeah.
over-unders. Bear with me here. Denver, Anthony had over, I had under. Minnesota, Anthony had over, I had over. OKC, Anthony had under, I had over. Portland, we both had under. Utah, we both had under. Golden State, we both had over. Clippers, we both had under. Lakers, you had the over. I had the under. Phoenix, we both had over. Sacramento, you had the under. I had the over. I had the over on Dallas. You had the under on Dallas. We both took the under on Houston. Or I took the over on Memphis. You took the under on Memphis. Um, both took the under on the Pelicans. And then you took the over on Spurs. I took the under. Yeah. In general, actually, I think we ended up being very balanced in our total number of overs and unders. We just picked different teams. Like I took the over on Sacramento when you took the over on like the Spurs, for example.
Mhm.
So I think we pretty much had the same number of over unders, just different disagreements on some teams. Yeah. Any locks for you? My lock is Memphis. I love this over bet. I think they're gonna be amazing. And yeah, that's like my big lock. I think that's like probably the bet I feel the most comfortable with. And I think Minnesota maybe too on the over 50 and a half, right? 51 and a half
Mhm.
for the West.
Um,
For the West. For that was
in the West, yes, yes. In the West, I think of a team I'm very confident in this over under is Portland with the under 22 and a half. Unfortunately, just does not feels like they're going to get lost in the shuffle. I don't feel confident in any of these other teams that are somewhat contending in the West just because it
yeah,
could go anywhere.
totally agree.
So,
Well, with
and
that, that's our over and unders for the East and the West for this season.
all
Um,
right.
we're buzzing. We cannot wait for the season. We'll probably do some
Let's go.
predictions, like all rookie predictions, all NBA predictions the coming weeks, but I don't think the first week of the NBA season will affect that too much. So you guys will see that coming up. And yeah.
Yes, sir. Looking forward. Max, you got anything else?
No, sir. Tuesday, biggest day of the year, the biggest holiday of the year. We should have the day off. Federal holiday.
We should. We should implement that. And maybe we'll talk about that more on our next episode, episode 61, coming at you soon enough on Spittin' Hoops. Holla at you.
Peace out.